Number one part of the state of Minnesota for producing startups from the University of Minnesota, single source. Since 2020, there are only 4 universities that have had 20 plus every single year. We're number 3 in startups.
Ahead of Stanford and MIT?
Depends on the year, but we're number 3.
Really?
Yes, in startups. So think Michigan, Colorado, Minnesota, Stanford, MIT, that's where we're at. I mean, not the top 10%, but like the top 2%.
Hey everyone, it's Arick Weirson. Welcome to another episode of Leverage Storytelling presented by Tunheim. And today I have Rick Huebsch. Did I get the last name right?
You got it. You nailed it.
Huebsch.
Yes.
Doesn't sound like that when you read it, right, on the paper. Rick, tell me, we're here today to talk about Tech Comm, and thanks for bringing some literature here. We always like to have literature. I always feel like this is my Johnny Carson moment when I put this into the camera and I say, we're going to be talking about Tech Comm. Just for everyone that doesn't know, and if they don't know, they should know.
Yes.
Here in Minnesota, in the startup community, what is Tech Comm?
Yeah, well, let me just tell a real quick story about the anatomy, if you will, of a university. First of all, like these large universities across the U.S., and in the case of Minnesota, University of Minnesota, they have kind of these 3 missions. They have a teaching mission, a research mission, and a public outreach mission. The teaching mission is one we all think of. You know, you think of a big student university.
And winning Big Ten championships.
Big Ten championships, yes. You worry about with the sports teams. The front porch of the university is the sports teams, but certainly all the students, 50,000 students, running the various campuses in the University of Minnesota. In the research mission, the university goes out and gets 1 to 1.5 billion a year in research funding, does a bunch of research, and then what do you do with that research, right? You write papers, you publish, and then what? Technology commercialization, which, by the way, 10 syllables, technology commercialization, we call it Tech Comm, is the branch or the part of the university. We don't do the research and we don't make the products and services. We're that black box in between. And so what's inside that black box? An invention comes in. We do assessments. We do patenting, copyrights, trademarks. We do business development, marketing. And then on the outside, we do licensing. And so a product company is going to produce products. The university produces research, and the product we produce is these licenses. These licenses can go to big companies, I think Medtronic, 3M, Ecolab, or more likely they're going out in a form of startups.
Now, I think we're all familiar with, because so many of these like startups happened in, like, say the halls of Stanford University. Some of the the most famous startups were
Google
projects. Yeah, exactly. But I guess a lot of people didn't really realize, at least I did, and I live here, that the U of M was a big player in this game.
Yeah, not only a big player, we're told by our President Cunningham that we don't brag enough here in Minnesota. And so I'm going to tell you we're really, really good at doing startups. You've heard of MIT and Stanford. Did you know we're 3rd overall? We beat MIT and Stanford many years. So in the latest publication, which was the 2025
In what
report.
metric are you?
So there's a national organization that does tech transfer metrics for all large universities. So imagine there's 200, 250 of these offices. We're number 3 in startups. In the past...
Ahead of Stanford and MIT?
Depends on the year, but we're number 3.
Really?
Yes, in startups. So think Michigan, Colorado, Minnesota, Stanford, MIT, that's where we're at. I mean, not the top 10%, but like the top 2%. And we have been in the...
That's incredible. Like, how do I not know that? Why doesn't the world know this?
I don't know. We need to turn the volume up, I guess. Everybody will hear about it based on this podcast.
Well, for sure, of course. Yeah. I mean, now it's a given. Yeah, of course.
Yeah, since 2020, there are only 4 universities that have had 20 plus every single year. So we're going 6 years in a row of 20 plus. We've had 140 of them since 2020. Number one part of the state of Minnesota for producing startups from the University of Minnesota, single source. But every university has their ups and downs. We've consistently been over 20 every single year, along with MIT and Stanford.
So just describe the process for people that aren't sort of aware. So a professor has an idea, maybe they have a graduate student that's working on a PhD candidate or something like that. But then what happens from there? Okay, idea, how do you get into Tech Comm, and then what happens?
Yeah, so it all starts with a grant, and they have to go win a grant. These grants just don't fall out of the sky. They have to go and keep competing and win a grant. So they have to put in these grant proposals.
To the university?
To whatever the source is.
Okay.
A lot of it's federal research, NIH, NSF, DOD, or it could be a foundation, or it could be a company. So they're starting to do that research, but out of that research, those outcomes then get reported to our office as an invention. And then the idea being, before you go publish about your discovery, you should report it to us so that you can decide whether, should we patent this first? It's great to publish, but get that patent filed first. So the idea when somebody comes to us oftentimes is they did research, they need to publish. A lot of them, though, are now saying, in addition, I want to have bigger impact. How are you going to have an impact? Papers are wonderful. Love the fact that we produce a lot of papers, but the impact is when you turn it into products and services. So some of these people are like, I want to cure this disease. We've got stories of professors, so MD, PhDs, that are treating, part of their job is to treat pediatric cancer patients. And if that doesn't motivate you to go discover some cures, then nothing will. So they want to see their stuff get to the market.
So let's talk about some of the companies in the stable. And you've got companies that are still inside of inside of Tech Comm that are being incubated, if that's the term you use. And then, of course, you have many companies that have left. Let's talk about the ones that are already kind of in the marketplace first, and then we'll go back and talk about some of the hot items in the stable. What are some of the companies you're most excited about that have actually started at Tech Comm and have now graduated?
Yeah, so one that's made a lot of news recently is Niron Magnetics, and it's a company that has been incubated and brewing for a long time. The initial idea came from 2010 timeframe, or maybe even earlier, from Jinping Wang in electrical engineering. But
a professor at the U of M.
A professor at the U of M. But the idea here is that this is a technology that's out and has scaled up. And the big news for Minnesota is this is a company that's already employed over 150 people. They've had over $100 million of investment. They will be raising their Series E. They're starting building a plant in Sartell, Minnesota, near St. Cloud. That will be their scale-up plant at 200 people. Great economic development story. Great story.
And this is the company that's building the magnet replacement, basically, artificial magnets.
Exactly, yeah. It's an iron nitride magnet. So a lot of people have heard about rare earth minerals and the control that China and some other places have on those rare earth minerals. So it's both a security issue in terms of economic security, and it's also an environmental issue with the damage that's done by harvesting those rare earth minerals. This technology.
And I don't think people. I had the opportunity to visit John Roundtree at Niron recently, and I don't think people readily realize how pervasive and necessary magnets are. And there's probably half a dozen magnets just in this microphone.
And in your cell phone.
Yeah.
Yeah. So magnets are everywhere. Magnets are literally everywhere, and it really is evidenced by some of the strategic partners they've encapsulated. But just one more thing about the technology is it's got iron and nitride. It's an iron nitride magnet, plentiful in the environment, plentiful in the state of Minnesota, if you think about the mining industry in northern Minnesota. So these are magnets that can be built and scaled that are less or zero dependence on rare earths, but they're also as strong or stronger, and they can be built in any size and scale. So if you think about where this company might go, not just the size of the company today, but what are some of the outlets, their investors, strategic investors include Stellantis, General Motors, Western Digital, Samsung.
Probably big defense contractors, I would imagine.
Big defense contractors. And so this is, in some respects, a national security and an economic security, but it's also so important to the value chain. And all of those companies are seeing this as a great opportunity to invest in an alternative for their supply chain. And it's just been a phenomenal story.
What are some of the other companies that have come out of Tech Comm that you're excited about?
Yeah, and so again, ones that are either in market or close to market. A company that's attacking, the PFAS challenge, and PFAS in the large scale is Claros Technologies.
We've had Michelle on the podcast.
Yeah. So you know about Michelle, and the idea here is that they're attacking the biggest challenge with PFAS in the manufacturing chain. Think of the PFAS producers, but also think of semiconductor firms, pharmaceutical firms, all of these firms that use PFAS in their manufacturing process. Claros takes that out 99.99% during that manufacturing process. So that's a very impactful technology that's really scaling up. Another company that has almost 50 employees in the state of Minnesota and is just going gangbusters.
And I saw you had a list here now, some some other companies here that you're excited about.
One of them that's been out in the market a while is also a great Minnesota story, and it's probably, well, it's more than 10 years old. It's almost approaching 20 years old, is Miromatrix. And it's a company that's had a really very interesting history. It started at the university, and it's basically a way for a biologics company or a biotech company that takes porcine organs, decellularizes them, so strips them down to the scaffolding, and then impregnates them with your cells, and you're basically growing your own organ. So think about the problems we have with the transplant list for livers, kidneys, and many other organs. So this company has been working for nearly 20 years to get this technology on market. They actually went public on the NASDAQ in 2021, I believe, and then recently purchased in the last couple of years by United Therapeutics, but it's still a Miromatrix, a Minnesota division of this big company, and based right here in Eden Prairie. Phenomenal facility. They've recently completed an early phase 1 trial, and they're going through for FDA approval, and they have a liver assist device that basically, if you're on the transplant waiting list for a liver, you can produce your own liver in 30 days at their facility, and it's an external device right now, but they've gone through several human trials, first in human trials already, and it's a rocket ship. But if you think about the impact of that technology, saving lives, it's a great story. So that's another one that's been out there a while.
So all these companies I'm seeing, some of them are in Series A, B, Niron's probably in D or E, probably.
Yep, Series E.
And probably headed to IPO, I would imagine.
Yes.
But okay, when there is an exit, whether it's through acquisition or IPO, like how does the university benefit from that? How does do you get some of the proceeds back from Tech Comm? Is that your operating budget essentially?
There's a couple of ways to look at the money. First of all, for the investments that they make in our office and what we provide as services, it brings lots of money to the university and to the state of Minnesota. We do a license, and so a license says, Rick is licensing to Arick. In exchange for you having exclusive access to this technology, you agree, if you make it to product, you'll pay us a royalty, small royalty, like single digit, not huge royalty. And at the start, when you incorporate, we'll get some percentage of equity. So think small percentage of equity. Now, the way equity works, as you get more and more investment, that initial equity gets diluted. But if a company exits, we have kind of 2 bites of the apple, if you will. We have opportunity for the university to get some royalties, and an opportunity for the university to get some exit.
Did the investors have a separate compensation stream?
The inventors. Inventors, yeah. So when that money comes, back to your question, when the money comes into the university, it actually comes in the university to further research and it incentivize researchers. So the researchers get a portion of the revenue. The department and college that supported the faculty get a portion of the revenue, and then we get a portion of revenue, which keeps our office going. So.
What's the most crazy, out of this world, out of the box technology that you've seen that come out of Tech Comm? Something that just blows your mind. You're like, I can't believe this is actually a thing.
The immunotherapies. Curing cancer with some of those immunotherapies, and doing the cell and gene editing. Those things are just. It's crazy what technology is happening, and the rate of which it's happening is just crazy. I don't know what we're going to see this afternoon. I can't predict. Some really just amazing things, and just the breadth of it.
I got to tell you, the most important thing, or at least the most shocking thing that I learned today from this conversation, among many things that I learned, was that you guys fight with MIT and Stanford for the top billion in terms of the number of sort of ideas that come out of the university that are actually commercialized. I had no idea that you guys were up there in that top echelon.
Well, spread the word. Spread the word. We're going to be loud and proud.
Yeah, that's great. Listen, thanks so much for coming on the show.
Great. Thanks, Arick.
For Leverage Storytelling, I'm Arick Huebsch. We'll see you next time.